On April 21st, 2019, Petscop released 4 new episodes alongside Petscop 17. Today we will be doing a full in-depth analysis of each of them, and I will say that this video will be unlike the Petscop 17 analysis. I'm going to be structuring it much like the retrospective analysis video, so without further ado, let's dive right in. Petscop 18 is a puzzle, to say the least. Much like Petscop 15, we get a glimpse behind the game's curtain to look at the assets. The video starts with us staring at the secret menu from episode 17. The player then clicks extra stuff and we are greeted with the sprites of the player character. In the bottom right, we are given the name of the character, Guardian. I personally interpreted this alongside the theme of adoption and becoming one's legal guardian. This would technically make sense given the character's sole purpose is to collect pets and children in the subgame. Another thing to notice is that the file names are suffixed with the term history, so we do know for a fact that we're seeing the evolution of each of these characters. The page turns and we see Amber's history. It more or less looks like the evolution of a sprite from a concept art perspective, and that's mostly what all these tend to look like. There's also the fact that there's subtle differences in each. For instance, Randus in the beginning looks slightly different than Randus now. We then see Tanith and Penn, both of them appearing pretty different in the past than how we've seen them before. The next slide is of Hudson, who we've never seen before. There's not much I can really say about him other than he looks like a pet like the rest. The next slide is of Wavy jumping, which is the first time we see a file that isn't a history file. I don't know if there's any real significance to Wavy jumping other than the fact that maybe when he was in the bucket earlier in the game, he was able to escape. The next slide shows us the map of the gift plane, which is really interesting since we haven't seen all of the overworld. With the paths branching in each direction, I think it's safe of us to assume that more overworld levels may exist or were at least planned. The next slide for the remainder of the video is the house. Slide number 9. The only thing is, throughout this video, the house rotates slightly. I believe this symbolizes perspective, or looking at things with fresh eyes. After all, these new releases do compel us to look back at the series. But I also think that it may stand for demo rotation, which is something that I'll cover in Petscop 19. As far as this video goes, I think it was placed to give us some more context and background on the game, with the character history and everything else. But I do personally believe that the characters in Petscop grow to become this way over time, and that may or may not symbolize certain aspects of the game. Perhaps as you play the game over time, the characters evolve with each different version. Petscop 19 starts off just as the last one did, showing us the secret menu from the sound test. The player clicks all recordings, and we see that the options to set for these recordings is Gen and Demo Rot. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Gen means generations, and that alludes to how many times the game has been played. For instance, Gen 14 is the 14th playthrough, and I do believe that along these generations, the game changes and evolves. The second option I believe to be Demo Rotation, and that has to do with the Garalina opening and what rotation the game is on. I think that this rotation system is what allows Petscop to evolve, by changing values and rotating each time you play it. As this happens, the game records your progress and even translates in-game actions to the demo scenes. That's my best explanation for these options. The player scrolls through these recordings for a while until they come to Sort Test, a Gen 1 recorded file. Demo rotation is off. When he starts the file, we get a very primitive looking Petscop with a very creepy Guardian sprite. Essentially, the recording runs around the game before stopping. It seemed like a very early beta test for the game, and I'm gonna say that that's what it is definitively. The next file we get is named Mike 2, and it's a Gen 2 file. In this recording, we see better level design and valid in-game transitions between rooms. This is where it gets confusing. We see the floating egg from the channel's logo. We see that in the About section, it's talking about Easter egg hunts. I think that an Easter egg hunt is an in-game event to go back through the old recordings and find things. A text box comes up once the egg is collected. It reads, "What? One of the eggs was in Daniel's game? What an unfair trick. Have you found every egg in the office?" The video then cuts to a recording named Care, and it's a Gen 3 file. In this recording, we see that the game is more developed with animated sprites, music, and game mechanics. For some reason though, the player goes back and forth several times before the video cuts to a file named Belle, same generation. In this recording, Belle captures Randus and Wavy. In Randus's description, it talks about how the flower doesn't need water as much as it thinks it does, and that if you're going to adopt Randus, you should adopt Wavy as well, stating that Wavy knows how to trick Randus. Wavy's description describes Wavy as being a cloud that's scared of everything, especially freezing. Then it lets us know that according to Wavy, he is never the same person for more than a few seconds. I think this is because he's constantly transforming, raining and becoming another cloud every few seconds. He's constantly going back and forth between two states. The next recording we see is a file named James2, and it's a Gen 4 file. In this, we see what I assume to be James attempting to catch Amber, only to have her flee multiple times on him. The video then cuts to another Gen 4 file named Phil, who seems to be attempting to catch Ronith. He stays there in the air, and then the video cuts to a file named Amber2 Gen 5. The player is locked in the same place Amber is. The video cuts once more to Bell 3 in Gen 5 in Pen's room. After selecting number 7, Pen is caught, and the video ends. Petscop 20 opens up with the Garalina intro on a certain rotation. The file name is Marvin and the gen is 6. Marvin makes a file, presumably using his initials, titling it MVM. He then starts up the game and is in the gift plane. Marvin reads the first sign, only to have the video cut to him attempting to open the locked door in even care. Video cuts to Marvin going directly to Ronith's room. Marvin then looks at the controls in the pause menu. After this, the cheat code is then entered and Petscop begins just like the first episode. The video cuts several times and does what I assume to be reloading, only because the file names change so many times, marking different recordings. The gen number changes, and we are greeted with this from Rainer. Hi Marvin, Rainer here. You have to be careful this time. If you run out without a sense of purpose, you'll get lost. I'm writing this on July 10th, 1997, and Kara's still missing. We are searching. Last weekend we almost got lost ourselves. Your search is harder. Beyond here, there are no landmarks besides this brick building, which should be familiar to you. Where is this building? From here, I want you to find a grave. You know which one. It's unmarked. Marvin walks around for a bit before Rainer tells him that he increased his speed so he can look faster. The video cuts to Marvin walking downstairs and to the right. He's greeted with a sign that labels itself Roadmap. Then, the sign explains that the object next to it are caskets and that once anyone sees them, they're sure to be part of the family. The rest, I will play here. I believe these to finally be the censored items we've seen throughout the series. Note that Rainer says anyone who sees these are part of the family. This is likely symbolic and provides a meaning as to why the items were censored in the first place. After that, Marvin makes his way down the road, seeing photos of the house, the school, and the windmill. After looking at the windmill, the video jumps to Marvin at Michael's grave. However, as he starts to walk around, the epitaph that we see doesn't go away. The video then cuts to Marvin asking the tool a question. He asks, "Did you find Lena?" And the tool replies, "I don't know." Marvin then asks, "Who is your boss?" and the tool replies, "I don't know," once more. Marvin asks, "What year is it?" and a calendar comes down. He ignores this and walks over to the screen showing the windmill, and here we can see that the windmill screen actually has controls. As Marvin messes with it, he goes down, and the video becomes really oddly trippy. Once the camera reaches the room he's in, Marvin turns the camera around and looks at one of the white boxes we've seen in earlier episodes. He pauses the game, and then whoever is watching the recording also pauses the game and goes back to the sound test. The video abruptly ends. This video is 3 minutes long, but it is exactly what it sounds like. The character walks over to a sign and begins dancing just as the file name says. Now, to an average viewer, this seems really odd and random, but I do want to call back to episode 20, when Rainer said that Care was dancing in circles and he saw something that disgusted him. While this video does end and we don't see anything odd, we do know that this is Care and that she definitely likes to dance. Now I'm going to tell you what the people in the community found out about this video, but since I don't want to get weirdly copy-striked by YouTube's algorithm, I will put the link in the description for anyone that wants to see it perfectly synced. The video is perfectly synced with the song The Sign by Ace of Base, which I thought was really ironic and funny and definitely works. That's all this video really is, and it was the last video that was uploaded to the channel in this batch of uploads. Some speculated that it could be the end of the series, to which I say be careful because I ate my words hard last time. I don't think that the series is over with this video, and I think that Petscop has a lot more answers to give us. If anything, they were just having fun with this video. But we did gain a good portion of information from these uploads. Most of all, I believe Petscop 20 gave us the most answers and an outline to the story as a whole. With those sensors being revealed, we can finally kind of tell what's going on. Marvin takes or lures kids back to a old abandoned school with a chalkboard where he writes 5 things that you need to remember. He also seems to mentally abuse you and makes you think that you're ugly and that nobody loves you. Care is one of the kids that got abducted, only she escaped and got back home. As for the whole rebirthing process, as for everything else that happens, I'm not exactly entirely sure because it's been very vague, but at least we get a brief outline as to what's going on. My final word on this batch of episodes is that this kind of proves the theory of there maybe being an entity within or around the game. Not only did Rainer suddenly turn Marvin's speed up out of nowhere as if he was watching, but even all the episodes syncing and mirroring themselves and the complexity of the game for a PS1 era game can be explained by the fact that this is no ordinary game. That maybe there truly is something inside of it, pulling the needles for lack of a better term, and playing Stravinsky's septet while doing so. Besides, early on in the series in Petscop 6, we did get this little monologue from Paul.
This game is trying very hard to make it seem like there's an entity in it. Like a ghost or an AI trying to communicate with me. It's interesting, but you know, the way you know that there's a ghost in a game trying to communicate with you is if it comes out, if it stops being distant, and it comes out and you can have a real-time back and forth with it.
Another interesting thing that was foreshadowed by his monologue was being able to actually have real-time back and forth with Marvin in the game. I'm not sure if this is based on gameplay patterns that the AI adopts into the personality of previous players, or if previous players are pulled into the game. But one thing is for certain, this series is a masterpiece, and it's also very vague and definitely a slow burner. We have so many clues, and yet we don't have the full picture, and I'm super excited to see what the next batch of episodes holds. Before this video ends, I did want to say something, kind of off the cuff and off the script. I did want to thank everybody who has shown a great increase in wanting to watch my videos and liking my videos. I did want to say thank you to everybody that is doing that. I am going to be launching a new series named Internet Vault, and it's essentially just going to be 30 to 40 minute analyses on previous ARGs or creepy things on the internet. In fact, if there's anything you specifically want to see me cover for that amount of time, go ahead and comment it. And not to sound like a beggar here, but if you guys would like to help me produce these 30 to 40 minute long episodes and potentially help me get them out a lot faster, I do have a Patreon down in the description that I will share with everybody. It is not required. I'm not going to hold my content hostage just because I want to get paid, because that's not really what I'm all about. But it would be a great help, and if you would consider it, I'd be very, very thankful. Thank you guys for everything. I appreciate it.